Hey, gun people. I had a lot of people request me to do this video. This this is a good example of tactically unsound. Um, I can't believe these officers weren't trained. I mean, it's just standard for most academies to teach about the fatal funnel, standing in one spot, allowing your adversary. I mean, anytime you enter a room, you have to go through the door. You're entering a fatal funnel. So you want to minimize your time in front of that door. You want to try and clear the angles left and right of that door before entering. So you take steps when you have to go through a fatal funnel. And these cops, before the door was even open, they all gathered in the opening. So when the guy opens up fire through the door, I think he hits all 5 officers, shooting through a door without aiming. Let's take a look at this.
2017. 5 officers from the Douglas County Sheriff's Department
Sheriff's Office!
are responding to a 911 call
Sheriff's Office!
from the Copper Canyon Apartments in Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
I got it, son.
Colorado, liberal city, USA. Lots of PC, lots of liberals.
Waiting for them, 37-year-old Army veteran Matthew Reel.
Oh, those mean Army veterans. Those people that served their country. Those people that went over and fought for their country and they get back here and they get crapped on by the VA. Those people who are committing suicide 20 a day because they can't get any medical care. The VA won't help them because the government sends them over there and makes them do things that literally affect them for the rest of their life. Those mean old veterans. Wow.
Matthew, come out!
He has a history of mental health issues.
Matt, come out!
Gun control. He has an issue. He has a history of mental control issues, yet he has a gun because the mental health is not connected to the gun issue. They don't stop people when they know it. There's liberal doctor-patient privilege crap. There's lawyers suing if you tell anybody or you say anything bad about anybody because you have to be tolerant of everybody unless you're a conservative or a white working male, and then you don't have to be tolerant. You can do anything.
Matt, come out of the room now.
And unknown to them, a loaded AR-15 rifle.
Whoa, that AR-15 rifle. And it's loaded. Woo!
Open the door.
Okay, you saw him moving obstruction. This guy had barricaded. We call that a clue, people. If you go into a call and a guy has had time to place obstacles and make you work through things, that's a clue. This is a barricaded suspect that probably ought to be made contact with, not just kick the door. Kicking a door is more of a search warrant issue, so you don't want to destroy evidence, or you're in hot pursuit and you don't want them to arm up. You have a guy who's got mental issues and he's put barriers in front of his door. And you go in there with 5 cops and you stand in front of his door and remove the barriers. Guess what? The guy behind the door knows where you are and what you're doing because he hears you removing the early warning signs that he put up. Here's a clue to criminals. If you want to know when the cops are in front of your door, set things in front of your door, and then when you hear the cops moving that thing, you'll know the cops in front of your door. Damn, Rick, that's brilliant. You should write a book. Yeah, I know. Pretty brilliant. But obviously, these 5 cops didn't have a clue.
Sheriff's Office!
This deputy ends up jumping out the window of the second story window, leaving her bleeding officer on the ground. And I'm not sure if he died, but
PM on December 30th. It was a quiet night.
I remember kind of looking forward to that night.
oh, dude, come on, man. You can't have a bald head talking about looking forward to going and shooting people. Rick, he didn't say that. He was, look, I know. I'm just trying to make light. People don't take it so damn serious.
You know, get in there, get it done.
I personally had plans for a New Year's Eve party. Let's just have a good shift. Let's be safe.
New Year's Eve party. That's a good thing to go to work when you're supposed to be out there carrying a gun and dealing with crazy people. You should be having plans about your New Year's party. What color is your fingernail polish going to be? How you going to fix your hair? What color your shoes are going to... Rick, why you... Shut up, you big dummies.
It was actually a pretty slow night, too, up until about 3 a.m.
I don't know what's going on there.
This guy in here, like, totally freaked out on me.
Roommate called. Remember, and I tell people this a lot, and they don't like to hear it. Most all murders, and I say most all, I'm talking in the 90, probably 95% of most all murders is somebody that has said I love you, or you have said I love you to them. I mean, most murders are not unknown people. Although that may get the most news because it's most violent and it's in the news and it's happening and there's footage, most murders, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, son, daughter, parents, siblings, I mean, that's the people that kill you. So, I mean, and I tell people this all the time, just because you say I love you to somebody and you think they're the perfect person in the world, man, you don't know somebody till you say goodbye. And, I mean, you can look at a divorce every day. Every time I see a divorce, a nasty divorce, O.J. Simpson killing his ex, when I see all this crime and footage on nasty divorces, I always picture, at one point, these two were in front of the altar, holding hands, staring in each other's eyes, saying, I love you. And look how it turned out. So, understanding human nature and how things are will help you not let your guard down and not say, oh, this is a family person. Oh, this is a vet. Oh, this isn't a vet. Oh, this is a cop. Oh, this is a Black Lives Matter guy. Oh, this is a Trump lover. Oh, no matter what the person, you don't know what they're going to do till they do it.
He kept coming at me. I appeared for my health and my safety. Like, he was at me.
And what was your name?
Matthew.
That is a very key line. I fear for my health and safety. This guy is setting this guy up. I mean, this phone call to me just is, to me, screams setup.
There was a hazard hit on the home saying that Matthew Reel was a veteran with PTSD and possible access to weapons.
So we know he has PTSD, we know he's a veteran, and we know he has weapons, and we put a flag on his home. So these cops respond, stand in front of the door in the fatal funnel, remove objects that he barricaded his self room, and then everybody's shocked when they get shot. Guess what? I'm not shocked. Ray Charles could have seen this coming. Helen Keller.
Your radar's a little up at this point.
Pretty much.
Okay. Hey, how are you?
Good.
What's going on tonight?
Yeah, well, my roommate freaked out on me and came at me. I even put a laser in his face, and I'm surprised he didn't go.
When I got
Yeah, he freaked out at you, and you put a laser in his face. When you point a laser at someone's face, you can make them go blind. People tend to freak out when you do that. Let's watch video. I'll go.
got on scene, Zach and our corporal who was on scene, they were actually talking to Matthew Reel. It was fairly calm at that point.
Why don't you come out here with this guy?
Hands up. You see that guy put his hands up? Remember, I talk about that when people put their hands up. It's a sign of don't touch me, don't come up on me, get away from me. I know if you just listen to Black Lives Matter, it'll say put your hands up, don't shoot, which is a lie. But anyway, this guy puts his hands up, and I'll try to pause it. There you go. See those hands going up? Hey, don't come in on me. I'm not armed. I'm telling you very clearly, I don't want any problems. Stay away from me. There's no reason to come in. Now, someone's going to say, Rick, isn't it reasonable to make sure the cop sees your hands are empty? Yes, it is. And I'm not saying this guy is wrong for putting his hands up, but you need to read people. You need to use judgment. I know the liberals will tell you shouldn't judge anybody. You should be tolerant, accepting, and be an idiot and be a good victim till your head's cut off, and then we can say how sad it is. But you need to judge people, especially as a cop, and you need to read them very quickly, and you need to pick up minor details in their movement, behavior, eyes, what they're looking at, their glances, how their hands move, bulges in their pockets, waistband, etc. Those are just things that you have to do. And I know liberals will tell you you shouldn't judge all rattlesnakes just because most of them bite, but that's because they're idiots.
Fairly calm at that point.
Why don't you come out here with this guy right here? You mind if I come in and talk with you, sir? Is he on anything? Does he have any mental disabilities or?
Not that I know of.
Did you guys get in a physical altercation tonight?
No.
I don't really like the way this guy's standing with his hands behind his back. Rick, why can't he stand by? This is it's kind of like if someone is rocking on their heels and toes when they're talking to you. It's a sign of anxiety. It's not what I call a natural, relaxed, normal position. He's holding his hands back. Now, could he do this because of military training and he's in parade rest? He thinks he's in trouble. He's thinking, going back to his military training, I'll stand at parade rest. Is he keeping his hands out of sight because he's nervous, because he's clenching them, because he wants to sucker you in and say, I'm no threat. Look, my hands are behind my back so you can get close and I can turn around and blindside you? I don't know, but just the hands behind the back to me is not a normal stance. That would cause me to maybe blade my stance, to keep a little distance, to put up my little feelers a little bit more, to not go into a more relaxed state, but a more alert, alarm state. That's just me. So I know green screen will be here. Oh, you should just buy pepper spray and then you wouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, whatever.
Okay. I'm just going to get your name in, sir, and then I'm going to get out of here, okay?
Guy seemed pretty cooperative. Stood there, raised his hands, told the officer he'd come in and talk to him, answered his questions, and stood there with his hands behind his back. No reason to predict why this guy would barricade himself in a room, except maybe the clue that when you came back, he didn't answer the door, and he had obstacles blocking the door he was behind. Other than that, no clue.
Hang on. Hang on. We're here because we're going to make sure you're okay.
So now this guy's yelling assault. This guy seems the mentally unstable guy, except for the fact he didn't barricade himself in a room with a gun. But he's the one that's screaming and yelling and being the little left-wing snowflake. Assault, assault, assault. And they come down there, and he's the complainant. So the cops here are kind of getting conflicting. I mean, if I was a cop here looking at these two guys, who do I believe more? I believe the guy that stood upstairs that was cooperative with his hands behind his back. But that's who I would believe. This guy, I'd be like, cry me some snowflake tears.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I know.
Are you okay?
It. Yeah, no, I'm fine.
What's your first name again?
Matthew.
Matthew. Zach. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Zach immediately developed a decent rapport with him. Zach's approach to everything was very level-headed, very calm.
So how did it end for you guys?
We knew the roommate was going to work, and we knew Matthew Reel was going back upstairs to his room. Then we were just going to move on to the next call, and that was just it.
And yet, 2 hours later, roughly, what happens?
We get another call back there. From what I understood from dispatch, Matthew Reel was extremely agitated on the phone.
Caller's not being cooperative.
He was irate, he was amped, and he was, nonsensical.
So when Zach and I arrived...
Oh, they did say Reel. So the dude with the hat is the one that barricaded himself. The other guy with his hands behind his back was being reasonable. Okay, so maybe I was right then. The guy I was worried about is the one with the hat. Has unstable. So anyway, here we go.
On scene. Zach knocks on the door. A conversation kind of ensues from inside the apartment with Matthew Reel.
Hey, Matt, it's Zach. Matt, it's Zach.
And he eventually opens the door, but before he does that, he says...
He said, I don't have any guns, I'm coming out.
Yes, we can talk out here.
And Zach was like, okay, open up the door, man. Like, we just want to talk to you.
Are you okay?
Yeah, well,
The way Zach was talking to him, he wasn't talking as an authority figure at that point. He was just talking like somebody who wanted to truly help him out.
well, I want to file domestic restraining.
Yeah, he was being a nice PC community policing. How did that work out? Let me give you a clue. He gets shot.
Well, why?
Can you help me?
Yeah, I can.
Eventually, we get to the point where he's like, well, I want a domestic restraining order. Zach's like, okay, well, we can help you out with that.
Okay, so here's your shooter. I must have skipped through this part before. I don't know how I missed that he was a shooter. But anyway, actually, I watched this a few days ago, and I just coming back to it. It's been open on my screen trying to wait for the video. But, I mean, the guy that's kind of squatting down like this and talking to me on his knees or bending over, nah, that's not a good way to be talking to people. I think they have enough with him right now to take him on a mental health hold of 5150. Had they not been so worried about being so nice and PC and shaking his hands and being good guys, they could have snatched him right here and go, you know what, dude, you ain't shutting the door. We're not coming back. We've already been back. You've screamed. You've given us indicators that you're probably a danger to yourself or others, and we're going to take you in for an evaluation. And they could have snagged him and prevented this. My guess is he probably has a gun right now. The cops are just so damn busy being nice, they don't know what's behind that door. Just my guess.
And then, I don't know, something switched.
Did you not get that message?
He just slammed the door in our face.
Well, I don't think there's anyone else in there.
No. We're going to take him.
Now they decide they're going to take him for 5150. Now, look, I'm not cracking on these cops saying I would have done it perfect. I don't know if I'd have done anything different. I wasn't there. But I'm just saying these are the things that cops face and the clues that they miss, that they allowed the guy to get back inside, and now he can be armed. They already know that he's possibly has guns. They know he's got PTSD. They know they've been there. They know he's been assaultive and crazy on the phone to dispatcher, and now they're back a second time, and they allow him to get in the house and shut the door. To me, that was an error, and they shouldn't have done that. Now, nobody wants to say that because when cops get shot, everybody wants to say, oh, the poor victim, government was there, and a mean bad guy. But to me, these cops didn't have to get shot. Maybe they would have got shot if they kicked the door. When that guy's kneeling down and he's not coming out and he tries to shut that door, if one of the officers would have kicked that door then, it would have knocked him on his back. Even if he had a gun, he wouldn't have been able to engage the officers. They could have jumped on him and done that. But we're in a friendlier environment, Rick. We have to be tolerant. We have to let people arm themselves, let them go get their acid, their swords, their knives, their guns. We have to do all that so, you know, we don't have somebody trying to say that we're being racist or intolerant or unaccepting, or we're picking on him because of his hat or his liberalism, or he wants to be a girl or he doesn't want to be a guy, or because PC has just removed all common sense in policing, and we wonder why more cops are getting shot. Well, there's a connection if the liberals will pull out their crayon box and connect the dots.
M1 hold is a mental health hold. Law enforcement is authorized to place somebody on a 72-hour mental health hold.
They call it M1. In California, they call it 5150 hold. If you 5150, it means it's crazy. Same thing. You hold them for up to 3 days. Normally, you take them in. The great government health care is so overworked. There's so many crazy people in there. They ask him, do you want to hurt yourself? The guy says no, and the doctor goes, okay, you're clear. We're releasing you. And he's usually released before the cops even pull out of the parking lot. You'll see the guy walking by your car as you're trying to get started on your paperwork. So 5150 holds, it's a joke. Why? Because it's run by the government. But the government's going to protect you and keep you safe. If you give them your guns and disarm yourself, you can trust the government. They're here to help.
Involuntarily, if they exhibit behaviors where they may be a danger to themselves or others. When the officers had gotten on scene, he was throwing things off his balcony, he was yelling and screaming. We were concerned for his safety.
See, I didn't know that when they were at the door. He was on the balcony throwing things off. Okay, that's a clue. Maybe this guy's crazy. Maybe when we had him at the door and the door was open, we should have snagged him by his cute little furry hat and pulled him outside. Or we should have done the pinky toe takedown and secured him instead of letting him close the door and go get a gun. Rick, you can't do that. He was just kneeling down talking to you. Yeah, that's because you're an idiot.
Safety. And Zach had basically described his behavior as the most manic episode of PTSD that he had seen.
The team decides to remove Reel from his apartment for his own safety.
When we were coming up with our
Remember, government's doing it for his safety.
plan for going up into the apartment, Sarge said, does anyone have a shield? And I said, I have my shield. We kind of set up how we were going to approach the apartment with me being in the front with the shield. Zach was going to be behind me with his gun out for lethal cover.
This sounds like a policy issue. Most agencies have policy in their books. If you approach a barricaded suspect that you likely to believe is to be armed, you will secure the perimeter and call in a armed SWAT team. They have heavier proof vests. They have more shields. They have more equipment and training. They work together. It's a team. That is when you call out the SWAT team. These cops didn't do that. They decided to get the shield out of their car and be their own on-the-spot SWAT team. To me, if there's a policy, they violated it. If there's not a policy, somebody in this agency ought to be looking at, hey, why are we going in on a crazy guy that we know is known to have weapons? We have a warning on a house that he has weapons and PTSD. We've been here 3 times. He's threatened his roommate. He's shined a laser in his face, and he's throwing things off the balcony now, and he just barricaded himself. And we don't call out a tactical team that has the equipment and the training to deal with this. To me, they missed the clue.
Coverage. Doyle was behind Zach with his taser out for less lethal, and then Sarge and Pelly were behind them, hands free.
Then we actually go hands on him, try to put him into custody.
Now, when he kicked that door, I did not hear a warning. Anytime officers, and if you're a cop, anytime you force entry, to cover your butt, you need to say, police demand entry, police search warrant, police arrest warrant, we're kicking the door. Because if this guy had shot when they kicked the door, now you give him a defense that, hey, it was all quiet out there. I thought the cops had left, and all of a sudden somebody's kicking in my door, so I shot and fired him. Now, once they get in, they announce police, and they do that before they make entry on the next door, which is also required by law, that every door that you enter, even if you enter a house by force, you're required to give notice if the door is shut. And, these cops missed a lot of clues, and that's why they got shot, but nobody's going to say that because it's not fair, and there's an officer dead, and it's not fair to the family, and we shouldn't say the truth because, comforting lies is always better than hard truths, and that's the way this country is run by the liberals and how our country is failing, because everybody wants to hear the sweet side and nobody wants to hear the hard truth.
The officers enter the apartment to find that Matthew Reel has barricaded himself in his bedroom. They don't know he's holding a loaded...
In this picture, they show the guys here. When this guy shoots through the door, he hits 5 officers because they're here. And when I talk about a fatal funnel, again, any doorway that you enter, anyone in this room has one point to look at right here. When these cops enter this room, they have to look everywhere. So their response time to return fire, to pick up the target acquisition, and to give a warning or to shoot is much slower than the guy waiting, looking at one spot, a door. And that's the basic principle behind fatal funnels. Don't enter them. Don't go through them. If you do go through them, go left or right. Don't stand in them. Don't lollygog around them. And don't stack up in front of them. This is a proper stack for a guy to kick a door, except maybe she should be here with the shield while he's kicking, or holding the shield on the door while he kicks the door. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but these guys did it the one way. They got them all shot. So for future reference, we call that a clue, and maybe you ought to shouldn't do what they did since everybody got shot.
Rifle.
He had not only barricaded the door, but the entry hallway with large objects that were designed to hang us up.
Matthew, come out!
Zach.
See, they knew it was designed to slow him down, to give him early warning, so he knows where you're at, what you're doing, when you get close to the door. When are you in range and in this fatal funnel? How do I know when you're right there if I don't have a camera? Well, I'll put an ironing board there, and when I hear you move the ironing board, I'll know.
Pretty much whispered to me, let's go ahead and kick the door because he's not coming out.
Sheriff's office!
When you kick a door, who's ever behind that door, guess what? They know you're in front of the door.
This was never like anything I ever imagined.
I would say probably a 30-round magazine.
No shooting is like anything you ever imagined.
That he dumped on us within a couple seconds.
I hear Zach say, I'm shot, I'm bleeding out.
Hey, I'm going! Cover me! Shots fired! Cover me!
And so I look to my left and I see Zach's down. My first thought is, my friend's down, I need to go get him. So I started crawling, I grab his, I believe it was his right boot, and I just pulled as hard as I could. I moved him probably 2-3.
So he went back to save him. I think she jumps out the window, leaves him.
3 feet. That's when the next volley of rounds started coming out.
It was very apparent by this time that it was clearly an ambush. And that's when I got shot.
Okay. This guy said it's an ambush. It wasn't an ambush. These cops set themselves up. They could have done all kind of things. An ambush is when you're walking into an unknown area with unknown danger and suddenly you're attacked. These guys had all kind of information that this was a dangerous thing. This wasn't an ambush. I guess you could say an ambush is sent that the guy inside knew he was going to shoot, and the 5 cops who didn't catch a clue didn't think he was going to shoot. So maybe in that definition, it was an ambush.
The bullet entered just over my vest, just under my armpit.
I saw the blood coming out of my sleeves. I'm like, okay.
It is amazing how many cops get shot under their armpit and on the rib cage. And this is just mine, no scientific data. My rationalization for this is when shots are fired, instinctively, cops turn and start to run or get out of the kill zone. And they're always caught in the side. The vests usually don't wrap around. When you lift your arm up, there's a place for you to sweat, and the armpit is fully exposed. Man, I just can't tell you over the years how many cops have been shot on the side under the arm area in a shooting.
Okay, I got shot, but then after that, my whole attention is on Jeff at that point.
You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay. Stay with me, Kelly. Out of there. Stay with me. Yeah.
The sergeant started administering aid to me. I was administering aid to Jeff.
Right on my back right.
At that point, that's when I could tell I'm not good. Like my lungs collapsed, I was gargling blood.
Stay with me, Kelly. You're all right. You're okay.
Okay, so he's gargling blood. He's kind of out of it. Medical's not going to come into this because medical won't come in until the scene's secure. So until they shoot this guy and get rid of him, all these cops need medical attention. And guess what? All the nurses that want to run out there and hate on me because I pick on nurses, all the firemen that want to hate on me because I pick on firemen. What do you guys do when there's a shooting? You stage outside until the scene is secure. You do not go in where there's an active shooter loose. So these cops are on your own, which is another reason if you're going to go down, you better take the suspect out. I'm not sure any of these guys return fire.
We came under another barrage of gunfire.
Are you able to tighten it? Shooting out the window. Get it out of here. That's right. Come over here.
Then you start thinking about Taylor because you're looking around.
So this guy, after he shoots them, he goes to the window and starts shooting them out the window. And again, because when cops go down and you start trying to save yourself and save your buddy, these guys lost tactics. And I'm not saying they're bad or wrong for this. I'm just saying shit happens. But in the military, when you disengage, you set up a perimeter. You set up a 360. You have the suspect locked down. You have the enemy locked down. You have an Apache Pro for the enemy, and you have somebody covering your 6 or watching that. So, now I know somebody's going to say, Rick, all 5 officers shot. Who was going to cover them? Well, if you're moving and breathing, you know what? You got to multitask. I can be giving first aid and maybe setting a perimeter. I don't know if they got on the radio. I don't know if they had more units coming. I don't, there's a whole bunch I don't know. I'm just telling you things to consider and why things seem so hectic and why sometimes it's easy to say the cops are really bad and they screwed it up because you don't understand all the dynamics that go into these critical incidents when it goes bad, which is why you want to plan and think and coordinate and have exit strategies and has best planning and the best chance to succeed before it can get to this situation. And these guys didn't. They went in wrong. They didn't call for backup. They didn't call for a tactical team. They had all the signs. When they got shot, they left wounded upstairs. They continued to get fire. They didn't have enough officers to give cover because they were shot. I mean, this was a bad incident.
She's not there. The last I saw, she went further into the apartment.
Where's Davis? I'll see you. She's inside with them.
Because I knew she was in the apartment by herself, outgunned, in a strange territory.
When the shooting began, Deputy Davis was forced deeper inside the second-story apartment.
I ran into the roommate's room just looking for some kind of concealment, kind of preparing myself to get into a gun battle at this point. Once I was inside that bedroom, I saw a window.
Yeah, because when I'm looking for concealment, the first thing I see is a window. Does that make sense to anybody? She went in the room looking for concealment. That sounds really good. I went in there to tactically secure myself and to pick up a position of best tactical advantage because I knew I was going to get in a shootout. That sounds really good. What was the first thing she did when she went in there? She saw a window, busted it, and jumped out. Okay, I got to call BS. She was not in there ready to engage this guy and to stay in the fight. She was running. Sorry. I know it's not popular.
So I broke the window and then proceeded to jump out of it.
Rick, maybe there wasn't anything that she could cover in the room, and that's why... Yeah, okay, whatever. You're an idiot.
I'm hit! I'm hit! Blue coming around!
What was it like for you guys to see her come around the corner?
Okay, she did good coming around a corner yelling, blue coming around. A lot of cops don't do that. In the heat of the battle, you just run. She was talking. They know her voice. They work with her. They probably knew she was a cop, but the fact that she said blue coming around, I give her kudos there. That was good on top thinking.
Sarge shined his flashlight on Taylor, and I could see the badge. And I'm like, oh, thank you.
Now, you would think they would know that they still have an officer inside. They've already talked about it. They knew he was up there. They knew they had 5, and they've only found 4. Unfortunately, when their heart rate goes up and they go on that fight or flight, auditory exclusion, blood pressure jumps, the eyes dilate or to attract light, they get focused, tunnel vision. There's so many. Remember, you process, I want to say, my numbers are wrong. I read it, either 15,000 or 60,000 thoughts a minute, or I mean, some outrageous number at the number of thoughts you can process in a second. And these guys are totally maxing out what's going on. Blood, safety. Did we call him for cover? Is anything coming? Do we have more officers? Is he still shooting at us? Am I reloaded? And so I mean, you kind of go into vapor lock sometimes. The mind just naturally goes into that state of vapor lock when it gets overtasked. And then you start forgetting things, and your reaction time slows, and you lose officer safety, and you lose, tactical things that you were taught. That's why large muscle memory, gross motor skills are so important. Those things work without you thinking. Fine motor skills require thought. I know I'm going to get the argument here. Well, if you can pull the trigger, whatever. Freaking idiots.
She's still in there.
We have 1 deputy down inside the apartment. I'm not getting anything from him. All of us have been hit at least once.
Shots fired. Yeah. 3 officers hit, one's down with medical and SWAT.
To me, that's only the second time that that information was put out. I think when they first started shooting, everybody was yelling shots fired. I don't know if they were yelling that to each other or if somebody was on their radio. Normally, instinctive cop will grab their radio and put out shots fired. But that's the first time that she put out everybody was shot. And the way they're playing it is she was a hero for putting it out, and now the cops are coming. But I don't know if that was the first time or not.
When we come back,
The moment when you realize Zach is inside and he's trapped, you felt really helpless.
ambushed, outgunned, and under attack.
I don't have a good feeling.
The desperate attempt to rescue deputies.
Okay, so a lot of tactical errors here. Things happen, apartments, rooms. Remember, this was a domestic dispute call between two roommates. This was a call they went there twice before. So many clues here that I think were missed. Am I saying all these cops are bad and a piece of crap? No. What I'm saying is the longer you're on the force, the longer you respond to these, the more you have experience with these, the more you start taking into consideration, and you can tell an agency that does this regularly does things more on automatic pilot. Some agencies I worked with were worse than this. Some agencies were a lot better. Again, experience is the best teacher. You can read a book, you can watch a video, you can stand in front of a green screen and tell everybody to buy my pepper spray, but I'm telling you, experience is the best teacher, and people that teach without experience really don't understand it. If you've got a guy teaching you business in college and he's never operated or run a business, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's teaching from books and what other people have told him and what he's been told, and he doesn't know if it really works or it doesn't work. He's just repeating. And that's the problem I have with a lot of people on YouTube or people reviewing videos, telling people advice when they've never really been out there, so they have no real actual experience to pull from to understand why something sounds good, but a lot of times it just doesn't work when shit hits a fan. All right. I know I went a little long. We'll end that there.